Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Bryan with DD214 Transport. Please like, subscribe, and hit the little bells for notification. That way you'll get a little notice the next time I update. Also, take a minute and go over to the Facebook page and join up with that. I tell you, I can't tell you how proud I am of the group that we have over there. They're all willing to help. They're all in this for each other. It's a very good support network for hotshots. Now, today, guys, I can't tell you how serious this is. And I really want you to pass this video around to everybody you know in the business or about to get in the business. Today, we're reaching out concerning personal conveyance. We're going to be talking about what is personal conveyance, what's legal, what's illegal. The title of it is You Don't Know What You Don't Know About Personal Conveyance. And believe me, what I thought I knew, I was probably wrong. So, understanding that and understanding that in the last 2 days, people that I know have been pulled over and placed out of service for personal conveyance violations. 2. One of them, they went back a week, checked the logs, and put him out of service for 10 hours. Okay? All right, so first thing we're going to talk about, what is personal conveyance? Personal conveyance is the movement of a commercial motor vehicle for personal use while off duty. You must be off duty. A driver may record time operating a CMV for personal conveyance as off duty only when the driver is relieved of all work and responsibility for performing work for the motor carrier. Now, this is where the gray area starts, and it's not really a gray area. It's really not if you think about it and you compartmentalize it. I am Bryan. My company is DD214 Transport LLC. If I walk out, get in my truck to go wash that truck and pick up a light bulb, that has to be on duty. Because now Bryan the person is doing things for the carrier. I have to be on duty. It boggles the mind, right? So here's your situation that just happened. I got it on the phone call today. I don't know this particular carrier personally, but this happened. The carrier got in his truck at his house. He drove to wash the truck on personal conveyance. At that point, he drove to a donut shop on personal conveyance. The next place is he drove home. On his way home, he got pulled over by D.O.T. and D.O.T. wrote him a ticket. Didn't put him out of service, but wrote him a ticket, so that's going against him. Why? Because the transportation of that vehicle from point A, which was his house, to the car wash, should have been on duty. After he left the car wash, it should have went on he could have went on personal conveyance. But once he left the donut shop to go back home, it should have been on duty. Now guys, this is how strict they are becoming. Please pass this thing around to everybody you know. We're going to go through this some more. okay? Hey guys, so listen, this is day 2 of this video. I have been thinking about this all night, and I decided that before I put this thing all together and publish it, that I wanted to reach out to compliance and get their take on it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish what I said here, and then at the end of the video I'm going to bring Miss Mary on and have a little bit of a conversation with her so that maybe we can get some clarification on some of this stuff. It's confusing, and they're hammering people out there right now. Okay, so stand by. We're going to go on to the end here in a minute, and I will dial up Mary. Thanks. When can a commercial motor vehicle be used for personal use? The commercial motor vehicle may be used for personal conveyance even if it's latent, meaning it can, this is something that's changed, this is new. If you have a load, let's just say for example, you stopped at a hotel, okay? You have a load, you're taking a weekend off. You can literally take that load, go to the pizza shop, grab a pizza, and come back under personal conveyance, and it's fine. It did not further the load. It did not help your company. So that was fine, okay? We're going to get into some other things here, but since the load is not being transported for commercial benefit of the motor carrier at the time, personal conveyance does not reduce the driver's or motor carrier's responsibility to operate the CMV safely. Now listen, personal conveyance and HOS, your hours of service, understanding this. Guys, you still have to abide by your hours of service. Okay? You cannot drive, for example, 11 hours, unload, go on personal conveyance, and drive 5 hours home. Can't do it. Cannot do it. Don't do it. Stop. Time spent traveling from the driver's en route lodging, such as a motel or a truck stop, to restaurants and entertainment facilities. You can do that. Commuting between the driver's terminal and his or her residence. You can do that. Between trailer drop lots and the driver's residence. And between work sites and his and her residence. In these scenarios, the commuting distance combined with the release from work and start to work times must allow a driver enough time to obtain the required rest to ensure that he is not fatigued. Okay? So basically, if you're on your 10-hour break, you can't start 9 hours into your break on personal conveyance. You have to hit the 10 hours, then go on personal conveyance. Okay? So yeah. So the day of, dropping your load and driving to the house is pretty much over. They're going to get you for that. Time spent traveling to nearby, parentheses, reasonable, safe location to obtain the required rest after loading or unloading. So basically what this is saying is you unloaded. you run out of time while you're unloading, you can go on personal conveyance and run down to the road to a hotel. You can do that. They don't have a problem. What you can't do is get unloaded and drive 12 hours home. They're not going to allow that. You're going to have to stop at your first available location. Okay, here you go though. Under your personal conveyance, let's do it this way. Let's say you unloaded. You're now out of time. You can't move, right? You go on personal conveyance. You drive a half hour. At that point, that's where your 10 hours starts. Now, moving a commercial motor vehicle at the request of a safety official during the driver's off-duty time. Okay, so let's just say you're stopped somewhere and somebody comes in, says, hey, you got to move this thing. Say a state police officer comes in, says, hey, you got to move this thing. At that point, you can go on personal conveyance, notate it down there, and move that vehicle out of the way to another safe location. So, yeah, be sure you notate that in your bottom. If you use time spent moving your own stuff around, you can do that on personal conveyance when you're off duty. You're fine with that. There are examples out there where, here's one of the gentlemen unloaded in the Panhandle of Florida. After he unloaded, he drove however many hours it was to his house, and when they audited him and pulled his logs, they saw that. And this is a gray area. I think this is pretty sketchy. They went back a week or 2 weeks, whatever it was, pulled this from 2 weeks on his logs, and said that because his home and his motor carrier were at the same address, that he could not run home, because that furthered the carrier. That furthered the, him going home would have furthered the advance of the carrier. Personally, I think that's a little sketchy, guys. I think they're cracking down on this personal conveyance, and I think they're going to do everything they can and twist everything they can. And a couple things you got to realize: if you start getting banged on this, they could take your MC, put you out of business. Absolutely can, and pull it in a minute. So be aware of that and be thinking about that. Now this is one here that this is where it gets confusing. Okay, this is very confusing, because in the Federal Register it actually says authorized use of a commercial motor vehicle to travel home after working at an off-site location. My guess is this means local use, where you would not, you don't blow through your 14 or your 11. But again, it's a gray area. I think that could be fought in court, and I think this gentleman needs to fight this in court. I don't believe he needs to take that hit. Okay, examples that would not be permitted. Here are a few examples that if you do them, you're going to get nailed for them. Examples of uses of a commercial motor vehicle that would not qualify as personal conveyance include, but are not limited to, the movement of a CMV in order to enhance the operational readiness of the motor carrier. Again, you got to separate yourself. You got yourself and you got the motor carrier. If you are doing anything for your business, you should be listed as on duty. I know it's crazy, but it is, because you are truly working for somebody else, okay? The logs are yours. The motor carrier are the ones you have to get in your mind to differentiate. Am I driving to the donut shop for me? Or am I driving to the donut shop to pick up donuts for the staff of the motor carrier? Okay, so that's where the gray area comes, and that's where people are getting caught up on it today. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, today. All right, so moving, remember, we're on this does not qualify. All right, so the movement of a commercial motor vehicle for the operational readiness of the motor carrier. Here's an example. Bypassing available rest locations in order to get closer to your next loading or unloading point or other scheduled motor carrier destination. Okay, so when you go off duty and you're out of time, then you've got to stop once your hours of service is up. Another one would be after delivering a towed vehicle and the towing unit no longer meets the definition of a CMV, the driver returns to the point of origin under the direction of the motor carrier to pick up another towed unit. All right, so that's pretty simple. You got your trailer, you take it somewhere, you drop it off, you go on personal conveyance, you go back to pick up another trailer, can't do it. You just can't do it. So, there you go. You got to be smart about this, guys. You got to be logging what you're doing. Continuation of a commercial motor vehicle trip in interstate commerce in order to fulfill a business purpose, including bobtailing or operating with an empty trailer in order to retrieve another load, or repositioning a CMV at the direction of the motor carrier. Now see, the guy I'm talking about that went from Florida to his house, he wasn't doing any of this. He was just going home. But still, he was out of hours. All right. Time spent driving a passenger carrying CMV. We don't do that, so I'm going to skip it. Time spent transporting a CMV to a facility to have maintenance performed. Guys, this goes back to the guy that left his house and went to the car wash. This is how they're getting nitpicky on this, and they're going to burn everybody. I'm guilty. I've misused it. I'm going to tell you now. It wasn't on purpose, but I thought it was different than it is. So you don't know what you don't know. So, after being placed out of service for exceeding the maximum periods under Part 395, time spent driving to a location to obtain required rest unless so directed by an enforcement officer. Now let's go back that again. And I'll make this very, 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 very simple. If you are placed out of service for whatever reason, they leave, you get in a truck and go on, I'm going to tell you now, if they come back to that spot and you are not there, you're in so much trouble, you don't have enough money in your pocket to make that work. All right. Another unauthorized use is time spent traveling to the motor carrier's terminal after unloading or loading from a shipper or receiver. Now this is what the guy got caught on. This is Sorry. Cheers. This is what the DOT officer hammered him on. All right. Now, personally, I think it's sketchy. I think it's bullshit. Period. She got him on 2 weeks ago when he left Florida. This was 2 weeks old, guys. They can go back in your logs and ding you for whatever. 2 weeks ago, he dropped and went home. That wasn't really the problem. The problem was that his house and his carrier address are the same. So now they say, hey, you can't do that. You can't do that. So, does that mean you can never go home unless you're on duty? Gray area, that's going to be fought in court. Guaranteed it. All right. So, again, these are things to think about. Things to stay up on. I'm going to put some links below, okay? I'm going to put some links below to some of this stuff I was looking off of. I reached out to the North Carolina DOT. It's Friday on a long weekend, so I got nobody. Reached out to Georgia, got nobody. So I was going to actually interview them online for some of this stuff. Nobody wanted to answer. All right, so guys, listen. If you need help with anything, please reach out. I'll help you if I can. I help everybody if I can. If you need help getting started, reach out to Mary. I'll leave a link below. I've got good deals struck with ELD, factoring. All those links are below here. And always remember, nothing you're ever going to put on that deck, take off that deck, or drive down the road is worth your life or anybody else's life. Be safe. I'll see you next time. Pass this video to somebody else. Like, subscribe. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time. Okay, so day 2. Here we are. And I'm going to call Miss Mary, who is my compliance person. And we are going to have a conversation. And I hope this works. I don't know that it will. I've never really done it before. So, okay, well, it looks like it's going to work. Let's dial this. Speaker.
This is Mary.
Hey, Mary, it's Bryan. We're on video right now. You're being recorded. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's my problem. I'm doing a video on personal conveyance. I did it yesterday, and as I was putting it together, just so many what ifs came up, and I just thought I'd reach out to you for a minute and see about your thoughts on it. We had a driver put out of service. I think it was yesterday. No, Thursday. He was put out of service because he dropped in Florida and then drove home. Now that happened 2 weeks ago. DOT in Oklahoma at the weigh station pulled him over, asked him for his logs, and he sent the logs in, and she come out, reviewed those logs, and come out and put him out of service for 10 hours. Now, he had just come off a 34-hour reset. How can that happen? How can they do that?
Well, they can actually go back and look as far back as what's accessible to them. They're supposed to stick with a limit, but obviously they can go back and flip through your logs, and they can ticket you for, or put you out of service for for past violations. My question is, when the driver drove to Florida, when he dropped that load, was it like first thing that morning? Had he been driving all day? How many drive hours did he have left available when he offloaded in Florida? That's the first question.
Well, let's just assume, and this is an assumption, but let's just assume he dropped, say, noonish, and he had to have drove 4 hours to get there. We're just assuming now.
At that point, he only had, based on however long it took to offload, a maximum of 7 available hours left that day.
So there would have been no way he could have went to Texas and stopped.
Absolutely no legal way. It's not about personal conveyance, it's about hours of service. He could not legally make it back to Texas under any, not just legally, he could not safely make it back to Texas under any rule and regulation. The fatigue law comes in, exceeding hours of service, exceeding drive time, exceeding operational hours, all of those rules come in. There was no legal way I think he probably knew that. No, every driver knows they can't do that. You can't drive 15 hours after you've been on duty for 7.
Right. I think the big thing about personal conveyance is that people are, and this includes me. This includes me, guys. It's me too, because I was under the impression that, my truck is my truck as well, and I can do whatever, whatever I want to with it. But as a professional driver running a commercial motor vehicle, that's not true anymore. That's it. You might as well just start thinking about what you're doing before you do it.
That's correct. It's not your truck anymore not only the minute you placarded it, but taking on the operational responsibilities of a motor carrier. It's no longer, it's governed completely under the Code of Federal Regulations. That's correct.
So let me ask you a question. I jumped in my truck a little bit ago and I went up to the restaurant and grabbed a sandwich and brought it back to eat. I didn't even turn on my ELD. Is that wrong?
No, that's okay, because not only are you completely off duty, but you're not doing anything to advance commerce. You're not picking, you're not doing anything to increase commerce, maybe even getting brake lights or fuses or anything like that. You're going to get food and go back home. It has nothing to do with commerce. You're off duty. Your ELD is not required under any circumstance. That's correct.
Okay, so
I had a guy.
Wait a minute, go back with me one more time on that. If I'm off duty, just driving around, doing my own thing, I don't need to have the ELD on.
That is correct.
Okay.
As long as you are not doing anything to prepare or increase commerce.
Okay. So if I get it, I get it. But let's take the donut shop guy we were talking about earlier in the video.
Yeah.
All right, so the guy leaves his house, he goes to the car wash, washes the truck and trailer, then goes to the donut shop, and then heads home. And on the way home, he gets a ticket.
Correct.
Tell me why and how.
So what happened is he got up, and even though he's off duty for the next 5 or 6 days for the holiday, he got up, he went to wash his truck and trailer. It's fully marked. It's got all the legal markings, D.O.T, everything, D.O.T number, motor carrier number, all those identification characteristics. He goes to the car wash, he washes the truck and trailer. That is considered advancing or preparing for commerce. When he leaves, so he's in personal conveyance at that point. When he leaves there, he literally goes across the street to the donut shop, parks, eats for an hour, talks to all the old men, gets in his truck. On his way home, which was less than 2 miles from the donut shop, he gets pulled over by a CMV officer, and the conversation goes, what you been doing? Oh, I washed my truck, had breakfast, boom, he got a ticket. The reason is, had he just said, "Oh, I'm headed home with breakfast," or "I'm going home," everything would have been fine. But the minute he informed that officer, "Oh, I went to wash my truck," which is in preparation for commerce, it became an on-duty obligation, and he received a ticket for failure to, obviously not using proper personal conveyance and not logging on-duty hours driving.
See,
So,
to me, that's sketchy because
it is sketchy.
okay,
but
because
it's
you.
it's
Can I interrupt just a second? I'm sorry.
yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so you just said that if he's home, I can go use my go get my sandwich and come back. It's no problem. Okay,
Right.
fine. But if I want to go move my buddy's car for him, that's still, I can move my own stuff around. I can move his stuff around as long as I'm not being paid for it. So how does that work? I don't understand.
So here's where me being his compliance manager comes into play, is because this is a disputable violation, because we can show that not only had he been off duty for several days, he was not washing his truck and trailer in furtherance of a load, because he doesn't even go back to work until Tuesday or Wednesday. He's having a hayride or something this weekend. He was getting it clean or whatever. But it is something that we can dispute. But fortunately for him, he has me as a compliance officer. So what we do is we take it, we write up our argument with it, we will submit it through the portals, and we will petition to have this DSA score reduced by the amount of points that he's achieved in his violation. So it is sketchy. But the problem is that at the side of the road during the inspection, drivers are talking too much and they get themselves in trouble. But at that point, we can't stop it during that inspection. Once you've opened your mouth, the commercial motor vehicle enforcement officer is going to do what he's going to do. He brings it back to me, and now we are going to appeal, and I think we will win, because he didn't work for 2 days prior. He's not working for 4 days after, and we can kind of fight for that in itself as well. And we will fight it, and we are going to appeal it. Like your guy that got pulled over, I originally wanted to appeal it because it does sound a little sketchy.
Right.
But now there's some question of what did that driver do? Did that driver offload at 6 a.m. first thing and then drive all day? That's one conversation. Did he drive for 4 or 5 hours, then offload? That's where the driver found himself. He knowingly knew he did not have the ability to safely drive or legally drive 15 hours from Florida to Texas. It didn't matter that he was going to his house. It didn't matter anything, because personal conveyance ruling says you still, even though you're a personal conveyance, you still have to be cognizant and obey the legal driving hours.
Right.
So you can personal convey 11 hours. You cannot personal convey 17 hours.
Right. Yeah. See, there you go. That's a good answer right there. Even though you're on personal conveyance, you still have the requirement to be safe and maintain the fatigue regulations, such as you got 11 hours to drive, period. And I don't know if any of you ever drove 11 hours, and I know some of you have, but if you drive 11 hours, guys, you're done. You're not safe anymore. So,
especially up and down I-10 from Florida to Texas.
Yeah. So now I want to go back to where the donut driver, and I'm sorry to call him this, but I don't know his name. The donut driver made his first mistake was, one, went on personal conveyance when he was out to wash a truck and get some donuts. Once you go on personal conveyance, then you are making yourself required to obey the rules. Whereas if he would have just went and got in his truck and never turned on his ELD, he was at home getting ready for a hayride. Makes a huge difference, right?
That is where he messed up, and that's why we retrain, and we're doing it with him right now, is retraining hours of service, retraining ELD guidelines, retraining personal conveyance regulations, because he just made the slip. And the problem is, in all fairness, commercial motor vehicle carrier has 644 violations he can get on the side of the road, not counting the ridiculously large amount of hours of service violations. So it's easy as a carrier to forget or to get mixed up, which was why, fortunately for him, he has a compliance officer or he has someone he can talk to, because it's very easy. He didn't do anything intentionally wrong. Case in point, the comparison of the driver from Florida to Texas knowingly drove a ridiculous amount of unsafe hours. This guy didn't do anything wrong, and we are going to appeal it, and I think that we have a really good shot at winning it. And the reason we're appealing it is because your CSA scores directly impact your future as a carrier.
Right. Now let me ask you this. How does this personal conveyance crackdown play a role in FMSCA or FMCSA taking steps to phase out non-CDL hotshot?
You know, that's a really good question, and I'm going to tell you, we see it coming down the pipe. We hear it in our classes and training, our continuing education. It's coming, non-CDL hotshot. I don't suspect it'll be around another 3 years, and the reason is because it's lack of education. The average person thinks that a compliance person, our only job is to get you started, get you legal, get you running, and then boom, you're on your way. There's no training. They're not doing any policy and procedures. They're not assigning roles and responsibilities. They're not doing any training and communication, monitoring, or tracking. It is a deadly game we're playing out there. I know the driver you're talking about that went from Florida to Texas. Super nice gentleman. Absolutely honorable person. He put his life and the lives of every person on that highway in danger by making a drive so long that there's no way he wasn't fatigued. There's no way he wasn't driving blind, which is what we say, driving where you've been driving for 45 minutes and you look up and you're like, holy heck, I'm already in this town, because you're unconsciously aware of what's going on. You're not consciously aware.
Right.
And it's happening nonstop. I think I had a conversation with you the other day where in the last 6 days, 450 something new DOT numbers were issued in like 5 or 6 days. An ungodly amount. My company alone had a ridiculously large number of carriers go active last month, and we're starting new ones. And it's literally every person is getting into this industry, and all they're doing is the bare minimum because they think getting approved is enough. And that is just the first step. Your CSA scores in your first 12 months.
Hold on. Take a breath.
I know.
So, all right, so take a breath. Now, hold on. I got another question before you get off on that rant, before you get back up on your box. Okay, so we know there's a crackdown with personal conveyance.
A huge crackdown.
Huge crackdown. Okay, so when somebody gets, and okay, let me do this. So they can go back up to 6 months or so and look at this. So you're not going to be able to hide this.
Correct.
And my question is now, how does this affect your ISS or your safety score, and how will that then in turn affect your entry audit? And I want to do these 3 different questions. How's it going to affect your ISS, your safety score? How is it going to affect your entry audit? And also, what's it going to do to your insurance on the back end when you go to renew? And maybe even a 4th question, let's do this 4th question is, what are the ramifications for multiple out of services for anything? Okay, so first question, did you get those questions in order?
I did, I wrote them down.
Okay.
The first thing is to even just, I don't know that everybody knows what your ISS is. Your ISS is the score that when a police officer, a commercial motor vehicle enforcement officer, any sort of law enforcement riding down the highway or in your town drives up behind you and he enters in your DOT number, the first thing that pops up is an ISS score. The lower the score, the better. I think a 0, a 1, even a 4 or 5 is good. When you get up into the 70, 80, 90, 100 range. What that means is it gives them a level of do they stop you or do they not? Because see, 0 to I think it's like 20 something is optional. The officer doesn't have to stop you.
Right.
When it's over 60 or 70, it's a mandatory stop. Yours is a 1, isn't it?
Mine is a 1, and I've been pulled over 5 times, and mine is a 1. But I'm not bragging. I'm very thankful because I could have been hammered on that one time. If you would go back to the video. But the safety score, when they pull it up, there's a little tag there that says bypass, better off using resources elsewhere. That's correct. What it literally says. I saw mine, I saw it. So when they're pulling up behind you and burning your tag, that's what it's going to tell them. Do I want to stop this guy? Do I not want to stop this guy? So
that's correct. And the higher the score, it actually becomes a point of, it's called, ISS actually stands for Inspection Selection System. If you are a 75 to 100, I just pulled it up right now, Brian, you are guaranteed an inspection must be warranted. If you're 50 to 74, it's optional, and actually on the FMCSA website, I'm reading it, it says 50 to 74 may be worth a look. If it's 1 to 49, it's a pass, no inspection is required. Your ISS score is accessible within seconds from that officer's vehicle.
Okay.
The more out-of-service inspections, the more violations when you're on roadside inspections, your ISS score increases greatly.
Yeah, they're going to bang you. They're going to bang you every time. Every time they pull that and it says inspect, they're going to get pulled over until until your number comes down.
And it takes a year or two for that number to come down. That is not something we can fix quickly unless we win
the appeal.
That's correct, in the appeals process.
Okay, so what's the next question?
The next question is on the entry audit.
Yes.
So with the new entrance safety audit, you guys are aware, and we teach you guys that audit determines whether you are going to continue as a carrier with operational authority under FMCSA guidelines. If you don't pass that audit, if you have too many issues, they can revoke your authority at the drop of a dime. With a new carrier, they don't need near the reasons to revoke your authority, especially because out of service and duplicate violations of out of service trigger an alert. And if you're a brand new carrier, 0 to, I would even say 6 months, and you're continually getting these violations or whatever, it triggers, and you can guarantee they're coming.
Right.
And they better see some incredible turnarounds and some incredible corrective action plans and some incredible methods that you have put in place to recover from your mistakes.
Just so you know, guys, I'm sorry, just so you know, I got my letter for my audit. I've got a stack of papers in there about that thick. They want to know everything. They want to see what you've been doing, and that stuff's got to match. Not only, just to give you an example, not only did they want the certificate that said, hey, your drug test was clean, but you have to have the chain of custody paperwork.
That's right.
Because they match the numbers. They have to match. It's insane. Okay, so sorry about that. Go to your next question. Let's go to the next one.
The next one is insurance. So does it affect you right away? It does not. When you go to renew your policy, the first thing that your insurance company is going to look at is your SAFER score. And when they see this increase of SAFER score, they see there's the triangle of driver fitness, vehicle fitness, and hazmat. Most of you guys just have the 2. When they see those over the national standard, it's going to raise your insurance because they're already going to deem you a risk. This isn't knowledge you can hide. Even if that officer doesn't, quote unquote, give you a ticket that costs you monetarily, it still goes on your SAFER score. Every inspection shows up. It does affect you. You can't run from it. And your insurance is going to start going through the roof, and you will at some point become uninsurable.
Right. All right,
And
so
the last question. Oh,
yes.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, the last question's fine. Go ahead.
So, what are the ramifications of multiple violations? There's two sides to that. There's multiple violations that continue to happen, which are not good, but then multiple repeats of the same violation. Case in point, hours of service. And here's the deadly part. Whether it's personal conveyance, whether it's starting 1 minute too soon, which has happened, whether it's taking your break 1 minute too late, it all lumps under hours of service. Even though it might be 3 different incidents, you've had multiple hours of service violations that have resulted in out of service issues. It's going to show a pattern, and at that point, they will revoke your authority at some point. Should there not be a turnaround? Should there not be physical acts?
So how do you? All right. So let's say we have a driver out there today that accidentally blew their 10 hours by going on duty 1 minute too soon. Accidentally, with no bad intentions, just misread how the personal conveyance thing works. Then and got caught doing it, and then again gets put out of service for another HOS violation. What are the remedies for that as far as what should the driver do? Does he need an attorney? Does he need a compliance person? Does he need, what's he going to do? Because at this point it looks to me like they're going to have to save their company in some way.
That's correct. So there's a couple different ways, but the number one thing that FMCSA looks for is, okay, these things happened, what were your responses? Whether it's retaining a compliance agent to do some appeals, we do retraining, we send in retraining, we take the test over for hours of service, we issue training certificates saying, okay, now we've re-educated, these are all the things we've done. We actually file an appeal, not because we think we're going to win, but because we need a response in the system to say, we've identified these things that are wrong, and these are the steps, these are the caps, these are the plans, these are the things we put in place to move forward, because it shows FMCSA that we're not just getting back behind the wheel and driving. We're taking what we've done seriously.
Right.
And FMCSA, these auditors are not stupid. They understand things are going to happen out there. It is your response to those things that is exactly 100% how you were graded.
All right. Well, let me ask you this: is this something that let's just say, for example, I wanted to do or appeal something? Can I go do that myself?
You can.
Okay. So, but I get it. It is, but you can, guys. You can try to do this yourself. I've never done it. I don't know how to do it. I would definitely look at it to see if I could do it, and if I couldn't, then I do have an attorney, and I do have a compliance officer. So, I would put that on them. There's one more question. I got about 1 million questions, but I just don't have 1 million hours of time. One more question is, now I don't lease anybody on, but for those guys out there, just for example, leasing on a driver who then starts having problems with out of service situations, what is the best option for them? And I'm talking about the owner of the company. What's their best option for the lease on driver if they've got a lease on driver that is being irresponsible, so to speak?
So when you take that step to say, I am now going to become an employer, whether they're 1099 or whether they're W-2, you're an employer, you exactly take on the responsibility of being 100% accountable for every move that driver makes. If you choose to do that and you don't have a compliance company, and there's thousands of them out there, if you don't have a compliance company in your corner, that's the dumbest mistake ever. Because every single thing you as the owner are graded on, even if you didn't do any of these violations. And when you have a driver that's either, maybe they made a mistake 1 minute too early, whatever, the first thing we have to do is we have to do different plans, corrective action plans. We have to have the driver sign them. We have to do retraining. We have all of this in the file because you're going to get audited. The DQ file is going to come into play. As a company, they want to know, what was your response? How did you address these issues? Was there retraining? Was there re-education? And then there comes the point where you have to know that that driver may run rogue. They may make a lot of money for you, but at what expense? Because they're going to cost you everything you've invested, because they're going to get you shut down if you do nothing about it.
Right.
The ostrich syndrome of putting your head in the sand is the quickest way to lose your authority.
Okay, so look, I appreciate talking to you. I'm going to jump off here and finish up this video real quick. But all right, well, thanks a bunch. And if you need anything, yell at me.
All right, talk to you later.
I see. Sometimes you got to be smarter than what you're working with here. Turn this off. All right, so guys, that's my compliance person. This is what she's saying. Really. So, yeah, that's the first time we did this. I'm really hoping it comes out to where you can hear it. This personal conveyance, now that I'm in the middle of my audit, actually has me kind of concerned because I've used it. And I've used it in ways that I now know that you can't use it anymore. So, and if they went back 2 weeks, you know, what are they going to do on me? I don't know. I try never to use it, but there are times when I had to use it. So, all right, guys, listen. I'm ending this portion of it. Thank you for all you do. We'll talk to you next time. It's Bryan with DD214.